Sweet corn donuts are by far the most decadent recipe in my book. But even still, knowing that they have vegetables and whole grains in every bite makes you feel better about enjoying a taste of pure indulgence. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sweet creamed corn. So I've added butter, corn, fresh corn kernels, and some vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and I'll just turn that on to a medium heat. Just adding some water here, but if you use frozen corn kernels, which is absolutely fine, I would leave this out. I'm just gonna let the butter melt. Using corn adds a nice natural sweetness, which means you can add less refined sugar. Pop the lid on. I'm gonna cook it for 3 to 5 minutes until they're nice and soft. I'm just going to start off the yeast. So I have some lukewarm or tepid water here, and just a sachet of instant dried active yeast, which is going to give the donuts nice fluffiness and volume. A touch of sugar. Give it a little stir, and then we'll just let it sit for a couple of minutes until you start to see the yeast bubble on the surface. I'm using almond meal and some wholemeal plain flour. They're a less healthier dessert in my book, but even still it gives them a really nice flavour and texture. Some sugar and some salt. A good way to mix up your dry ingredients, I find, is using a whisk, so they're really well incorporated. Okay, just check on the corn, and they're nice and bright yellow, so I'm going to get in there and just blend it into a coarse paste. It looks good and smells even better. And I'll let that cool while I start on the wet mixture. So I have an egg here. And I have some oat milk, but you can use any milk that you have. Give it a bit of a whisk. Now ready for the yeast mixture. You can see all the little bubbles on the surface. It's going to give us the lovely air pockets. Just whisk this in. Okay, now for the creamed corn. Just want to make sure it has cooled completely, otherwise it can kill the yeast before you've cooked your donuts. That would be heartbreaking. Sometimes I freeze a batch when I need my donut fix on a Friday night. I can just get it out to thaw, and they go down the treat. And then I have some whole kernels, because we need them to be nice and corny. Just mix it all together now. Just give it a really light whisk until it's combined. Just scrape any of the mixture from the sides. Don't want to waste any of this. I'm just going to put this in a warm, draft-free place for about an hour, and then we can get ready to cook. Okay, let's have a look. It's doubled in size. Okay. Just have some oil preheated to about 180 degrees. You don't want to cook too many at a time because the oil will drop in temperature too much and the donuts will be a bit too oily. You just have 2 spoons. You don't want them to be too perfect. All the rough bits end up being nice and crispy. The fondest memories I have of donuts was when I was a kid. $1.80 for a chocolate milkshake and 2 cinnamon donuts for free. So these are a much better option. Just have a rack sitting on top of a tray with some paper towel. It's dangerous work. Just be careful. These are the things you need to do sometimes for delicious treats. And I'll just keep these moving in the pan. You don't want them to get too much colour, and you want them to be cooked all the way through. I'm going to make a brown butter maple glaze for the donuts. So just have some butter in the pan, melting, not too much. Wait till it starts to foam and you'll smell this beautiful nutty aroma, and then it will turn golden brown. It's also known as beurre noisette. Just add some maple in and a generous pinch of salt. Give it a good swirl. Okay. Just want to make sure you get a nice, even covering. You don't need too much butter or maple syrup. And they're nice and hot and they soak it all up. If you wanted to make these dairy-free, I have to add, you can just skip the butter and just drizzle with maple syrup and then dust with icing sugar. They are dangerous, these things. Nearly impossible to stop at one. My sweet corn donuts.